So many of my favorite memories growing up involve my family and food and sitting around the table, dining together and just spending quality time together. We have an extended family here in Winston, and every year my mom makes sure that everyone gets their special birthday meal. My favorite's chicken pie. We like to sit around the table and enjoy each other and spend time, and we use food as a celebration and something that we can look forward to. We use food as in other ways in our life to celebrate other occasions as well, like the time that we took 3 of my daughters out to our favorite sushi restaurant to let them know that there'd be yet another sister on the way. The 1-year-old Edie, she didn't have a whole lot to say about it. Maggie was 6, and she was excited about having yet another sister to play with. Ella was 7, and probably facing a little bit of anxiety about the idea of yet another sister. She just looked at me and said, "Daddy, when are you going to stop doing this?" So for us, food is something to be celebrated. It's something that brings our families together, and it's something that makes everyone happy, which is why it's so difficult to imagine what it must be like to be one of the 1 in 4 children in our community that doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. It's 40,000 kids, tens of thousands of families that don't know where they're going to be able to get their next nutritious meal. So something has to change with the way that we view hunger. I'm going to tell you about a couple of important aspects of my life. The first is I am the president of an amazing organization called Hope of Winston-Salem. It stands for Help Our People Eat. And it was created by a pediatrician here in town who recognized that when kids were coming in on Monday complaining that they were sick, they weren't actually sick, many of them. Instead, they were just really hungry. And if you know anything about kids, particularly hungry kids, they can't focus if they're hungry. They become a distraction. They think about other things. They cannot learn and they fall behind, and statistically, they're at a much higher chance of falling behind a grade level. And so what she did is she saw an opportunity to fill a gap. And she created Hope, which is a program that provides meals over the weekend to kids who otherwise might not have access to food. And so Hope of Winston-Salem, every weekend, delivers about 1,000 meals to kids who would otherwise be hungry, 1,500 pounds of produce to their parents so that they can make dinner for their kids. And they do this all by driving into the areas of need, to these communities with the kids who are suffering the most, and they do it in a big green truck. And the big green truck goes through the neighborhood and making stops, and it plays a song, dare I say, a slightly obnoxious song. Right, that's what it sounds like. And the kids, they hear it. And it's a lot like the ice cream truck. They know it's coming, and they all come running out. And when they hear that music, they're so excited, and they come ready to get that meal. And it's a great feeling in a lot of ways because you see how happy the kids are. But it's also a very sad feeling because you realize that no child should ever have to be that excited about getting one meal over the weekend. Since it's been open, Hope has given out about 300,000 meals and 500,000 pounds of produce to families that otherwise might not know where their food would come from. And Hope's an amazing organization, and it's filled with staff that are amazing, volunteers that are amazing, but it cannot do everything on its own. So another part of my life is the Village Juice Company. And we opened that restaurant here several years ago because we wanted to provide fresh, nutritious, whole, real food to the community. But we realized then, like we realize now, that everyone can't afford a $9 salad, no matter how big and beautiful and delicious it is. And so we thought, what can we do as a company that produces food? What can we do to help the nonprofits to fill in some gaps so that we can try and address some of the hunger issues that exist in our community? And a quick word about nonprofits. And I have the utmost respect for nonprofits and the hard work that people put into them, but we've got to change the way that we view nonprofits. And we've got to change the way that we ask nonprofits to do so much for our communities when really nonprofits are not designed to solve all of the world's problems. They're designed, in my opinion, to fill a very narrow gap and help out those of us or those in the community that are not as lucky as I am, that haven't had the privileges that I've had, but we're asking so much of them. At this point, it's just not sustainable. In 1995, there were about 350,000 nonprofits in the US. Now there are close to 2 million. Charitable giving has continued to rise, but it has not risen at the rate of the production of new nonprofits. So what that's created is a competition among nonprofits for the charitable dollar. And it's a competition in which we hamstring each of the nonprofits, making it unrealistic for them to go out and succeed. And I'll tell you what I mean. With so much competition for each dollar, we ask them to go out and change the world, but we tell them don't go and get the best MBA graduate or the best executive team. You've got to operate on a shoestring budget. And you're not going to be allowed to market or advertise the same way a for-profit could, because we as a charitable giver want as much of that dollar that we give to make it to the recipient. And that makes sense. But what it does is it creates a situation where nonprofits aren't allowed to take risks, and they're judged in an extremely unfair way that isn't meant or doesn't lend itself to actually solving the world's problems. So we thought, what needs to happen? And my argument to you is that we've got to change the way that we view for-profit companies. And we've got to change the way that what we ask of them. It's my belief that for-profit companies can collaborate with non-governmental entities, NGOs and nonprofits, and collaboratively work together in a way that makes real change. And it's my belief that the antiquated idea that corporations are only beholden to their shareholders is outdated and has to change. It's my belief that each company is stronger when it has a social purpose, and it is better as a company, and it's better as a community contributor. So what can you do? Well, we're all consumers, so we can, of course, choose how we spend our money by aligning ourselves with companies that share our mutual interests. If you're a business owner, you can choose to align your business with causes that mean something to you. If you work for a business, you can talk to the decision makers and ask them, what are they doing as a company to make the world a better place? Yvon Chouinard created Patagonia. And when he did it, he and his climbing buddies, they recognized that we're pulling more out of the earth than we're putting back in. And so they created 1% for the planet. And 1% for the planet means that you give 1% of every dollar that comes in this case to environmental causes, regardless of whether you make a profit. And by doing that, it sounds small, but you could input billions of dollars into the economy and really make a change. So Village Juice is committed to doing that within the community. And so the ways that we work with our community in collaboration, and this community is filled with amazing people that are dedicated to fighting hunger. And there's so many great programs that are out there. And then there's so many great programs that are here dedicated to fighting hunger. Second Harvest, Story the Plate, so many different organizations that are trying to bring the community together in a way to make change. I want to tell you about one collaboration, and we've worked with several, but I want to tell you about one collaboration that we're very proud of, just to give you an idea of some of the things that we're trying out. And as a for-profit company, we may fail. This idea that I'm about to tell you is at its infancy, and it may not work, but we have that right as a for-profit company to make those risks and see if it works. And if it doesn't, well, that's okay. We'll figure something else out. But what we're doing, we've aligned ourselves with groups from faith-based organizations, the city, and we're taking the plots of land that are within the communities that we serve. And what we're doing is we're connecting them with urban farmers from the Urban Farm School, because it never made any sense to me that we're talking about food insecurity in these neighborhoods that have plots of land that are perfectly capable of growing food. And so what we're doing together is we're funding positions for an urban farmer where they'll grow produce, we'll buy the produce, and then the excess produce will be distributed throughout the community. So that we're creating a job, we're creating food, and we're trying to make a very, very, very small dent in a very real problem. And so by doing that, we hope to create a replicable system that others can look to, where other people have agro-resources that are available to them in the same way, and so that they can try and extract some solution to the problem. So I ask you, what can you do as a member of our society to encourage a change in the way that we view nonprofits? We can't ask so much from them anymore, and we've got to look for other solutions. Thank you.